Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconiana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home. Today we are going to continue our series on the fuel economy of the Penguin Cygnus roller petrol lighter. Today we are going to remove the wadding from one of these lighters as we attempt to determine whether or not a certain wick may function better, allow less fuel to evaporate from these lighters. Most of the Penguin Cygnus lighters that I have still have their original wicks in them, although I have replaced the wick in a few, including the one you see here in the center. This particular lighter we have experimented with extensively and pretty much determined that it gets about 2 days on the fuel economy of this lighter. You fill it up, it's only going to last you about 2 days. This lighter has a paper gasket, and we just recently installed a copper woven Zippo type wick. Actually, I believe it was an actual genuine Zippo wick, one that we had received recently from our buddy Gavin Lannon. That is the wick we put back in there. But with these two gold tone lighters getting such great fuel economy, both of them lasting well over a week, this one is waning at this point, although it will still light. And this Cygnus adjacent lighter, which is actually marked Cornwall Slim, over a week later, and it's still lighting up strong. But both of these lighters have rubber gaskets rather than the paper variety, so that may have something to do with the fuel life in these lighters lasting so much longer. But I noticed that they also both have a limp type wick in them. So I don't really want to pull the wick out and leave this lighter any less original than it is. So what I thought we would do is see if we can pull out the wadding and determine what kind of wick that is, and that would perhaps help us figure out whether or not putting that type of wick in these lighters would make the fuel economy in them last longer. We're going to start here with a pair of tweezers and just pull our wadding. Try not to pull the wick all the way up and out of there. Get a pair of pliers on that wick. It's pretty tight in there as it is, so it doesn't seem like it's going to come out real easy. Here you see the bottom end of the wick, which is nice and clean and looks like the IMCO style of wick. I would have to go back and look at the old videos to figure out whether or not I replaced this wick or put a new wick in this lighter when I got it. See if we can pull that wick up now that we've got part of the wadding pulled out of there. And that wick is not coming out of there, so see if we can get a hold of this wadding around the wick rather than pulling the wick itself out. One small piece there. And we pulled the wick on out of there, so I was not wanting to do that, but that's the way that it turned out. And from the looks of this, I am going to guess that this is an IMCO wick that I put in here a couple of years ago. Looks very clean. Looks as though I may have reused the wadding that was already in the lighter. Looks a little dirty to be new. So I believe that is our original wadding. And I would have to go back and look at the video to determine for sure if this is a replacement wick or not. So I think that is what I will do now. I will check back in with you guys here in just a moment. Alright, so that was an IMCO style wick that we put in there, and it was about 3 years ago. So now we are going to tie a lasso around it with our silver beading wire so that we can reinstall this wick into the lighter. You guys have seen me do this several times now. There's not much to it, just tying a little knot. Not even really a knot, just tying a loop around the wick and then pulling it down through the chimney of the lighter. So I'm going to start with this end that is singed a little bit from use and trim that. Now we're going to cut that just at a slight angle here. Easy for me to say, a little bit harder for me to actually show. Okay, that's about the kind of cut we want. Get all our excess pieces out of the way, and we will start our knot here with the wire. And this is really the only part of the knot that you need to know. It's, like I said, not really a knot, more of a loop. Pull that down. Get it almost went too far there. So we're going to get this right here where the big part of the wick starts, where we made that cut. Pull that tight. Once we've got that tight, then we want to bend both sides straight up. And then we're just going to twist it. The reason we twist it is so that we don't have the wire getting all tangled up with other things inside the tank of the lighter. It's not really an issue on these Cygnus lighters because there's nothing inside there. There's no flint tube, plunger seat, or anything like that, like you're going to have in other types of lighters. So we got that twisted up. Now we will tie it off. Pull that nice and tight. And then we will snip off the ends of the wire. At this point, we can take our lighter. We're going to feed this wire straight down that chimney. No problem getting that to go in. If you're going to have a problem, it is usually going to be as the wick enters the chimney. So you try to get that all started nice and straight. If you need to wet it down, no harm there. And then we are going to pull that down through, and typically I will need to wrap that around something else to get enough of a grip to where I don't cut my fingers with the wire. Once you've got that wrapped around pliers or some other sturdy utensil, then you can pull it down into the chimney. And we will leave that with just enough there to close up. Now we will snip off the end. And we'll keep a hold of the end of the wick as we feed the wadding back down into the lighter. And I'm going to need to find a pick. And I'm not sure where all my orange handled picks have gone that I typically use for this process. But we will use this precision screwdriver and perhaps a punch or two that we have here handy. Try to feed part of the wick down as we go. Gets our wick down in there a good ways, and we'll keep a hold of it here as we press in the last bit of our wadding. And so you guys saw that when we started up here that this lighter was still igniting. The fuel was waning after having been filled up well over a week ago. That is pretty densely packed with the wadding. And then we've got the end of the wick just curled up there. That will give us plenty of room to get our fuel cap back on and for it to screw all the way down. So before I started this, I was a little bit concerned. Didn't really want to pull the wick out, thinking it might be original. I'd forgotten that I had actually put a new wick in this lighter a few years ago. Now we will fuel this up. That fuel soak in. Do our best here not to overfill it. And these Cygnus lighters just don't hold a whole lot of fuel. We gave it a couple of drinks there, which it soaked up pretty quick. That was the third. And then with the fourth one there, that is absorbing. I don't feel fuel coming out the wick just yet, but it is damp, so that lighter should be full. We will set our fuel to the side, replace our fuel cap, and I would say that determining that that was an IMCO wick in there would probably lead me to replace any Cygnus lighters that need the wick replaced with an IMCO wick, because this lighter has gotten such great fuel economy. I think that there is a chance that the wick has a part to play in that, but I also think that the rubber fuel seal or the rubber seal on the fuel screw probably has a big part to play in it as well, as I think that rubber seal is going to function a whole lot better than just that simple paper gasket. Until next time.